Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's Up With That, the show that brings you interesting people, places, cultures, and subcultures here in the South Bay, the San Francisco Bay Area, the state of California, and beyond. And tonight, what's up with child advocacy? What is a child advocate? And what do we need to do as a community, as a society, to make sure that our children are learning well, being treated, and that their rights are being protected? Well, it seems to me that when election time comes around, education is always at the very, very top of everyone's agenda. However, once elected, what happens? Budget cuts. Oh, we don't need this. We don't need that. We don't need that. And usually this is told by politicians who have no idea about the public school system. So what do we need? We need advocates. We need people out there who are making differences, who are making changes, understanding the needs of every child. And tonight we are blessed to have two very such people. Please welcome the president of Children Now. This is Ted Lempert. Hey, what's up?
Hey, great to be here. Thank you.
And Joy Bartol. She is a program specialist from Family Child Education Services, Santa Clara Unified School District. How you doing?
Hi.
So let's just start with a basic question. What is a child advocate?
Well, I think there's two kinds. One that works directly on working with individual children and helping. The kind of child advocate I am and we are at Children Now is exactly what you were talking about in terms of a politician saying one thing and then getting in office and not doing right by kids. So we advocate on behalf of the needs of children among policymakers in Sacramento and also in Washington, D.C. as well.
And so you're on the level of working with the student. And where do you see your role as an advocate for children?
I see my role as being someone who is going to move forward with making things better for children.
Yeah.
Creating leaders. I'm in a leadership program right now, and I'm hoping to make a difference somehow with what I'm learning, whether it's myself or students that I have in my programs or even the directors that I oversee.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very dynamic show because we'll have both sides of the story, and me as well, because I'm the grunt worker. So it's a great trio tonight. We're going to learn a lot about this. Issues, okay, one of the issues that I was looking at on your webpage was how to improve the K-12 system. And there's always so much debate about, the three basic core, the testing subjects. And how do we get out of that frame of thinking and try to address each child, each individual?
Well, and that's so important. And really, our goal, which I think is the same as public schools, is make sure every child has the chance to reach their potential. And every child is different, and the schools need to recognize that. I mean, it's certainly one of the things in California that would allow us to do a better job of focusing on each child is more resources. And, when I grew up and went to public schools in this area, we were we were fourth in the country in funding, and now we're one of the bottom states, 47th. And so clearly to really pay the attention and give the support to each child, that costs dollars to do that. Right,
and what do people need to do in terms of that to change that status? Because I've looked for years and years, it's going down. And again, it bothers me because here we are in California. We are the technology capital of the world. Silicon Valley is. We have so many different things going on. What's the problem?
Well, the problem is a lot what you said. Everyone just assumes, all the elected officials say education, and of course education is being taken care of. And folks in this area and throughout the state really need to make more noise about it and really demand from their elected officials why isn't education doing better. And a lot of what you hear is, well, we spend a lot of money on education, but you need to look at how we compare to other states. We spend more on prisons than any other state. We actually rank high in some other government services.
Such a nice, fuzzy, warm feeling, huh?
We're #1 in prisons.
Yeah, go California.
But education was
build
the bottom.
Another jail.
Absolutely.
Forget about those kids. Just build another one.
Yes, there's limited dollars, but if education truly was the top priority, we'd be doing a lot better. And people have to not give in to just the lip service they hear, but to really demand that we support the schools.
So what is the importance of a good education for a child?
Oh, it prepares them for their future. We need good education quality starting early, preschool, and even infant care. Quality infant care, preschool will help. There's so much that the child can benefit from. There's research that shows that children who attend infant care, preschool, they're more likely to graduate from high school.
Right.
They're more likely to go to college. There will be less criminal acts from children who go to preschool.
Things like less teenage pregnancy. There's a
Exactly.
whole kind of thing going on. So how do we address? We'll get into some of these specific things in a minute, but how do we address just the whole K through 12 system? You going to Sacramento, what do you say to them about budget cuts? And then you say, well, this is what we need.
Right. Well, we say that kids truly have to be the top priority, and of all the things government spends money on, children need to be the priority. And so that, and to ask folks, what kind of state are they thinking we're going to have in the next 20, 30 years if they don't do right by kids? So to have services that serve kids, including education and early education, be the last thing on the chopping block and not the first.
Right. And unfortunately, that is the first, And I think, again, when we do that, then we're also sending a message to the child.
Yep.
I think the message that we're sending to the child is that, their education really is not that important. We had to fend for ourselves. Well, I mean, whatever. There's these kinds of...
Well, this gets controversial with folks, but if you think about, when you see where the adults work in city buildings and federal buildings and even county buildings, and then you look at how schools are treated, where the kids are, it's really different. And then the pay, for the amount of education that folks in education need to have, the teachers and support, actually they're among the lowest paid of public sector salaries. And that's just not talked about, and I never quite understand why. That we really need to change the debate and say, let's make our kids and the people who work with kids, let's make them the priority. Yes, there's limited funds, but if we really make kids a priority, we could be doing so much better.
Yeah, I mean, even if you can't, give them an enormous amount of, raise all of a sudden, some doing things that make them feel that what they're doing is important.
Absolutely.
And that's where, these hidden messages come in and people get discouraged because...
Well, that's what you don't see. The school system is so large in many communities that the teachers don't really know the children. And one of the things that they're showing that's really one of the best things for kids or high school students is small learning communities, because then the teachers can really get to know those children, about them, how they learn, and then they can adapt their curriculum for that. We don't have that in many of our schools. The principal probably doesn't even know half the kids, maybe not half, but some kids, where smaller learning communities, you get to know the families, the kids, and work with them. And that, I think, means so much more. The kids feel valued. Right. And they want to go to school and they want to learn. All right, we'll save that thought. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back to talk about child advocacy. So I'll see you in a second.
If there be time to expose through discussion the falsehoods and the fallacies, the remedy to be applied is more speech, not enforced silence.
Public, educational, and governmental access television is such a remedy, providing every community with a forum for free expression. PEG Access empowers every voice to be heard. It's the freedom to communicate, and it's only on cable.
All right, we're back here on What's Up With That with Ted and Joy, and we're talking about child advocacy. And let's break down the whole umbrella here, and let's start with school system. One of the big things that has been advocated is the importance of preschool. And when you talk about preschool, from my opinion, because I can tell when my students have been in preschool and have not, there's a big difference. There's a big importance in preschool. Why is it important that we invest in preschools?
Yeah, and I'm glad Joy brought up the issue because it's so critical. There's a lot of talk about the achievement gap. Well, the achievement gap is evident by age 5. And kids, like you say. And I think what a lot of folks don't realize, because times have changed, over the last several decades, is that families that have the resources are sending their kids to preschool. There was a big study that came out recently that showed that. And so what happens is kids that don't have that advantage and that ability are behind. And so then some people say, well, government doesn't have any role in this. And it's like, well, wait a second. The one thing I think we all agree on as a country is equal opportunity.
Right. It's in our Constitution. It's one of our
there you go.
rights as people.
So if some kids have this quality early education and other kids don't, I don't get how you have equal opportunity.
Right.
And it's really almost that simple, but yet it's not that simple, unfortunately, because we've had to work very hard to get the support so more kids have access to quality programs.
Right. And what does a kid learn in preschool?
They learn social skills. They learn autonomy. It helps them to be prepared for when they go to kindergarten, when they have to separate from their parents.
Right.
There's so much. I mean, they learn no matter what they're doing. And quality preschool will focus on the whole child, not just academics. The social, emotional, physical, cognitive as well. It's very important. The research has shown that there is definitely a difference from children who go off to kindergarten with no preschool and those that do.
And I think the issue here, again, that you brought up that, set a little light bulb in my head is this inequality. Again, here we are punishing the poor because the poor can't afford preschool. So in a sense, we're starting them off on the wrong foot.
Yep.
And my experience is that in preschool, and research such as Piaget and Erickson suggests that by the time a child is 5, not only are they beginning to reason, but their value system is beginning to come in place. So if we don't have something going on before that, we could be creating a very lost sort of group of people. And so we need to do something. Get out your checkbook, folks. Okay.
Well, it's expensive. I mean, children now are a report card. People talk about sending your kids to college, but a good infant care, child care, and then preschool. I mean, you're talking about the same kind of costs to send your kid to college, and so most families just can't deal with that.
Well, I think that's where we have to look to the community, and hopefully there will be corporations that will see the importance of this and help us out a little bit on this.
Especially now with our economy, people are choosing other programs, or the expense is a lot. They think, how come we have to pay so much? But what they don't understand is that we want to be able to pay our educators.
Right.
If we didn't charge what we did, this is a low-paying field. So that's why, like, infant care is like $300 and something a week.
Right.
And they're like, how come it's so expensive? Well, quality care, we want qualified staff, educated staff.
And these are young kids, they're very young kids. So, that's a hard job, infant care.
Yes, yes.
And then so that now we move on to other issues that, again, are, at the forefront. And one thing that a pet peeve of mine is healthcare. I don't understand, in the United States of America, equal rights for all, why there are children who are denied health care. That's almost like, to me, it's unconstitutional. It's unfathomable. It's like, what, are you going to let the kid die? I'm sorry. Can't come in today. I mean, it's crazy.
It is crazy. I mean,
you have to see.
Children Now has been working on this, and I tell you what you just said, if we can't get this done in the next couple of years, maybe the next thing should just be to have the constitutional right for kids to have health care, because it's so obvious, and it's not only morally right, it's really not that expensive. I mean, when we get into adults, obviously it starts getting a little more expensive, but it's not that expensive to provide every child with health insurance.
Yeah, I mean, California is trying. I would say, in the last 5 or 6 years at least, I mean, it's gone way up for how many children actually have insurance, but there are still a lot that don't.
It's about 800,000 kids in this state don't have insurance.
I mean, that's hard to believe.
Right.
This is California. We're the golden state, folks.
Yep.
I mean, at least have the kids well, Next thing, okay, so having covered healthcare is nutrition. And I was talking with Joyce because we work together, and we were talking about, and actually I was talking to my principal today as well, about even, what the kids eat at school lunches. And my principal said, it's a shame, because the school that I'm from is a very low-income school. And she said, it's a shame that the only meal that our children are going to get is really, just sort of fortified junk food. Now, I know she's going to kill me for saying this. Keep the smile, okay? Smile. But it's true. I mean, they get these packaged food, and although our school district does have a policy, and we're at the forefront of it, but, they're adjusting. why is it important for a kid to have a nutritious meal?
It all goes.
it's, yeah.
It all goes to health, and you're going to learn better if you're healthy. We all know that nutrition is so important, but the other part of nutrition is the obesity epidemic, which has finally gotten the attention it deserves.
Right.
In California, 1 out of 3 kids is obese or overweight, and so that just relates to what they're eating, right? And that kind of food, at school, and then a lot of families, especially poor families, don't have the access to better food. So it's a very complicated issue, but at least when kids are in a setting that we can help manage, we should at least be making sure they're getting some nutritious
Right,
foods.
Joe, you can comment about the importance of modeling as teachers good things to eat.
Well, one thing we've done in our programs is that we follow our school district policy of serving nutritious foods. So that's what we do for our breakfast and snack. We're not required to serve breakfast, but we do because many children don't get breakfast. Snack, same thing. We provide the snack in the afternoon after they get back from school. And then our all-day programs like preschool, we offer breakfast and snack. It's so important because a lot of those kids don't get that at home.
Right.
So it's so important for us to at least try to promote it within our community that we can, or our school system, and somehow get resources for the families that need it, and also educate those families about food, nutrition.
Yeah, and it is an economic thing, unfortunately. I have kids that come to school with, with a can of soda and hot Cheetos, and that's their lunch. And by the afternoon, they're tweaking out.
Yep.
So this brings us to the next thing. Then we have the community, which I think is that's my big thing, is bringing in the community. It's going to take a lot of work.
Yep.
I mean, to change all these things, to change, again, from where we started with this conversation, the focus of people thinking about education first, and it should be our first priority. So we're going to talk about the community right after we take a short break. So we'll be back with What's Up With That, talking about child advocacy.
An asthma attack can be frightening to your entire family, prompting trips to the emergency room, depriving children of sleep, keeping them out of school. Asthma is serious. It can be deadly, and it doesn't go away. But the disease can be controlled to avoid future attacks. Let your child live an active, normal life without fear.
Talk to your doctor or call the American Lung Association at 1-800-LUNG-USA.
All right, welcome back to What's Up With That. We're talking about child advocacy with Ted and Joy, and we're going to talk now about the role of the community, because we've talked about nutrition, and we've talked about preschool and getting the child ready. But there's a whole big component. When you learn early child ed, one of the big components that you learn is the triangle, the family, child, community. What steps should the community be taking right now in advocating for the welfare of the child?
Sure, well, and there's lots of ways the community can be involved, but in terms of what we were talking about earlier about really needing to pressure elected officials in Sacramento, one thing I think folks need to realize is they're involved in different community groups, and those community groups have a lot of power as they talk to their friends throughout the state and their statewide organization. And so it's really important for folks in a local area to get their organizations and to get their community groups to say, we're going to prioritize this, and if they're part of a state network or a larger network, to really bring the needs of kids to the fore. So in addition to volunteering, being involved in the community, there's also a lot of folks can do at the local level to have a voice in Sacramento.
And actually, I think that's the best. I think grassroots movements always, they stir up people. People are suddenly involved in the whole process, and that opens the door for models for other communities. They say, if they could do it, I can do it. And I think about the community, and from my own personal experience, my center has a lot of community involvement, and the children realize from having community people, community organizations, clubs, whatever, come in and work with them, they realize that they're part of something bigger, that they're not necessarily stuck in this hole, which could be, what they might feel when they go home. Not most cases, but when they're at school, they realize that there's something bigger, that they can do something. And so I think it's vitally important that we remember to look out in the community. I mean, you can probably talk about what happens when a child relationship to his community?
Well, we do provide, and I know I've talked to you about this, Andrew, where we've got children that have never experienced anything outside their home. We've had children that have never been to a restaurant or have never gone to the mall.
Right.
And with some of our programs, we're able to do that. We're able to take these kids to places they've never been that their families cannot. It shows them outside their normal realm, and it gives them, wow, there's other things out there. Or maybe I can be a doctor if they visit a hospital. There's things out there that they can, wow, there is something else besides that. And I can do that. So I think we need to get more focus on the children and what we can do for them so that they can grow and better their future.
Yeah, and it's going to mean a commitment from the teachers to be willing to see that. You know, that's another thing. You know, it's taking the initiative that our job is really to do every single thing possible that we can. You know,
and in order to do that, you have to know your children well, and you have to be able to put interest in each child the best that you can.
Which is now brings me to a great point. I got another little flashlight. Okay, so now we're talking about these changes that will be coming next year. Kindergarten classes will go back to half day. We're kind of going back to the start again. Class size reduction may be thrown out the door. How will that affect a child right now? What will be the effect of this?
Well, it's gone the wrong direction. I mean, we know the advantage of class size. You know, one of the key things to full-day kindergarten and kids having that access is that, you know, parents working, you know, what is that child doing otherwise? And if there's not the skilled support to be helping that out, that's a huge problem. And so, you know, I think a lot of times people say, oh, this, you know, these millions of dollars here or this budget here, and what we need to be remembering is what you talked about early on, is we're talking about individual kids, and just like, you know, folks will look at their own kid and say, you know, what does that child need to thrive? I mean, we need to be ensuring that every child has that opportunity.
Right. We have to stop treating kids like cattle.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's always an easy fix. You know, oh, if there's a problem, well, we'll just do away with this and do away with that, and pretty soon you're left with nothing.
Yep.
You know, and we have to stop that.
And it's it's in all of our interests. I mean, that the future of kids, it depends on, you know, the kind of community we're going to have, whether this state's going to continue to thrive. And so it's not just something we should want to do because we feel good about it and morally, although that's obviously right, but also it's truly and literally the future. And so we all have a stake in making sure our children are doing well.
I mean, we've always been told that children are our future, so it's time that we live by what we say.
Absolutely.
There's been a lot of discussion about the effects of, like, educational video media, that some of it's positive, some of it's negative. What do we do to bring that a difference for, how do we convince these people to make quality educational videos, and what is the standard?
Yeah, and children has been really involved in that, and there is positive and there's negative. I mean, there are some positive media experiences that can help with education. I mean, you look at things like Sesame Street or other early ed, and so there is an effort with the Federal Communications Commission to really try to crack down on things that are clearly harmful to kids. And then the other piece of that too is advertising. Most of the advertising that is targeted to kids is for junk food, and that's something that we as a society can change. And there's some discussion going on in Washington D.C. about that right now.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a difficult.
Absolutely.
But we can start that at our own level, though. We don't have to worry about dealing with the dude from Madison Avenue.
Well, and it's, you know, all these issues, it starts grassroots, and you can say how someone, you know, in a local community here going to influence what happens on Madison Avenue. Well, that's how it happens, and that people putting pressure and saying this is not right and build up those grassroots movements, and it really can have a major impact.
Tell me, what kind of things are you working on right now? What are some of the big things that children now are working on?
Well, Key Prairie is getting all kids health insurance, and we're involved on a campaign of that. One of our partners is the PACT group, the Interfaith group here in Santa Clara County. We're very involved in an early education campaign to try to expand access to early education statewide. And then we were just talking about the media, so we are involved working with local groups throughout California to put pressure on to reduce the amount of junk food advertising, because it's a direct contribution to the obesity.
Well, that's all they want.
Yep.
I mean, think about it. And they go, the ones that are not in a program where they're, you know, learning to eat better foods and learning that actually celery and peanut butter taste pretty good.
Yep.
You know, put a couple raisins on it and, you know, you have a bump on a log, or, hey, you know what I mean?
There you go.
And also they're having fun with their food, and so they're enjoying it.
And it's healthy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we made an apple bread today, and they loved it. They got to cut up the apple, and, you know, they were involved in that stuff. So we're getting near the end of the show. In a utopian world, where would you like to see the education of the child in California, in our community?
I mean, the way I look at it, if we're serious about equal opportunity, what does the kid with all the financial advantages, they tend to be in a school that has small class sizes, lots of opportunities, teachers who have the time to teach, enriching activities after school. They have any kind of health problem, it gets taken care of right away. Every kid needs that. I mean, we know how kids can thrive in the kind of support they need. And you know,
they deserve it.
And they deserve it. It's not utopian to say we can do that. It's going to take a lot of effort, and we need to demand it.
Okay, Joy?
I think that our focus again should be the children and getting them. Every child needs and should be able to have a good education.
Right.
And to do that, it is just focusing on social and equity justice and just getting out there and reaching out to those children that can't come to school,
Right.
Getting more funding. Like
Changing our priorities.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. We've finished
you.
our conversation. To the audience, I hope that you've learned something. I hope that the next time that you hear about budget cuts, you decide that it's time to take action. I mean, get up. Be part of this society. Society dies when we refuse to stand up for our rights, and especially for the rights of the child, because they are our future. We know they're our future. So it's time to invest in our children. Please check out the website at, why don't you tell us a little about the website?
Childrennow.org.
Yeah, so if you check out the website, there's lots of resources, lots of ways for you can volunteer. Make a difference. That's the message. We can make a difference, and we will. So thank you very much. And to our viewing audience, as always, if you're walking down the street and you see something interesting and you wonder to yourself, hey, what's up with that? Well, tune into our show, What's Up With That, and maybe you'll find exactly what you're looking for. We'll see you next week on What's Up With That. Good night, everybody.